Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be discussing the life and career of George Reeves and his connection to the Superman curse. George Reeves was actually born George Brewer in Woolstock, Iowa in 1914. His parents split shortly after, and he and his mother bounced around from Kentucky to Illinois before finally settling in California, where she met and married George's stepfather, Frank Beslow, in 1927. Frank legally adopted George that year, and 13-year-old George Brewer became George Beslow. In high school, Reeves began acting and continued to do so as a student in Pasadena Junior College, and he interned at the famed Pasadena Playhouse, where he met his future wife, Eleanor Needles. While at the Pasadena Playhouse, Reeves performed in dozens of plays and was discovered by Maxwell Arno, the casting director for Gone with the Wind.
Well, anyway, we heard that is they say that Ashley Wilkes is gonna marry her. You know the Wilkes always marry their cousin. How do we get those Wilkes?
Can't be true. Ashley loves me.
Call it. What do you suppose has gotten into her? Do you suppose we said something that made her mad?
Following Gone with the Wind, Reeves returned to the Pasadena Playhouse and starred in the play Pancho, and it was there a rep from Warner Brothers took note of him and he signed a contract with the studio. It was through Warner Brothers that he stopped using his last name Beslow and began to use the stage name Reeves, and his credit in Gone with the Wind reflects that. It took Gone with the Wind a year from the time production began to be released, and in that time, 4 Warner Brothers films that George Reeves had filmed had been released. So even though Gone with the Wind was his first movie role, it was his 5th to be released. While under contract with Warner Brothers, Reeves completed a number of projects, including appearances in 2 Ronald Reagan films, Knute Rockne All-American and Smashing the Money Ring, as well as 3 James Cagney films, but it was all bit roles and extra work that did nothing to advance his career, leading to his contract with Warner Brothers to be dissolved by mutual consent. Reeves signed with 20th Century Fox, but was released after just a few films, one being the Charlie Chan film Dead Van Tell, and during that period co-starred in the box office bomb Lydia.
Did you see the game today, Mrs. McMillan?
No, I did not, but I understand you distinguished yourself.
Here's how it happened. Our center made a bad pass, but Jimmy Phillips, he's our tackle, total the ball so it's our ball on the other 40-yard line. Well, Mrs. McMillan, we line up, and I call for an end run by the quarterback. That's me. The center makes a perfect pass, and we go around the right. Behind good defense, we see the right end coming toward me. One of our men takes him out of the play, so I start down the center, behind our right tackle, and guard running high like this.
From there, he went freelance and looked for work in westerns and appeared in 5 Hopalong Cassidy films before being cast as Lieutenant John Summers, the male lead in the 1942 war drama So Proudly We Hail.
You wouldn't even know there's a war going on here.
That was the idea. Darling, was it terrible up there?
It wasn't pretty. We're so outnumbered. Sometimes the Jap losses were 300 to 1. Still, they kept pouring them in. The dive bombers, they were the worst. Up and down every road, all day, all night.
If you haven't seen So Proudly We Hail, I recommend it. It's a phenomenal film. It received 4 Oscar nominations, and it nearly shot Reeves into superstardom. He really only needed maybe one more role to achieve that, but he was so inspired by the film that it prompted him to enlist in the Army, where he served until the end of World War II. Following World War II, Reeves returned to acting, but studios were either slowing down their production schedules or shutting them down entirely, making acting work harder and harder to find while paying less and less. Needing work, Reeves was cast in the lead of the low-budget serial The Adventures of Sir Galahad and took a second job digging cesspools. Unlike Kirk Alyn, Reeves didn't care for movie serials. He only took the role because he needed the work. He wanted to act in movies, and it was in 1951 when he was cast in what would end up being his final film role as Sergeant Malin Stark in From Here to Eternity. Now, there's a rumor that his role was cut substantially because audiences recognized him as Superman and couldn't stop laughing.
Now, looks like you're primed for a big night, Top.
Hello, Stark.
Want some company?
No, thanks. All tied up.
David tells me you've been eyeing the captain's wife like a hound dog at hunting time.
Yes, huh? Superman. What else did that character tell you?
You took up with a lot of men back there at Fort Bliss.
Right. Well, I wouldn't put stock in stories like that.
Say no story. I was one of us myself. Not for long, no. Sure is something strange about that.
People can see you.
Hello?
I didn't think you were coming.
Why not? I ain't late.
That didn't actually happen. It was a small role that was filmed before being cast as Superman. The movie just wasn't released until 1953, and by then, The Adventures of Superman was already on the air. 1951 wasn't just significant to George because it was his last serious movie role. It was also the year he was cast as Superman and his alter ego Clark Kent for the B movie Superman and the Mole Men, which was also used as a pilot for the TV series.
You're not going to shoot those little creatures. In the first place, they haven't done you any harm. In the second place, they may be radioactive. If they fall in the reservoir, they may contaminate the water supply. Save your time and ammunition, Benson.
Reeves wasn't thrilled about it for a couple of reasons. Because, like The Adventures of Sir Galahad, the target audience was children. And second, television wasn't considered a viable acting career like it is today. It was often considered cheap entertainment for children and simple-minded folk. But he needed the work, and unlike a lot of the acting work he'd been getting post-World War II, this was consistent.
An actor can't always act. Sometimes he has to work.
You're talking to the man who defended Camelot with a cardboard sword.
I enjoyed you in that.
You were the oldest boy in the theater, Art.
Look, it's a dirt cheap kiddie show. It doesn't even have a sponsor. Odds are no one's ever going to see it.
It's just sounding better and better.
And you need the money.
There's money.
I mean money of your own. Take the job. Cash the check.
Joining him in the series were the late Phyllis Coates as Lois Lane and the late Jack Larson as Jimmy Olsen. And Larson was actually a fan of his and made it a point to tell him when they met.
Olsen. The first time George and I met, I said how good he was in So Proudly We Hail, which was a star-making role. And he said yes, and if the director, Mark Sandrich, who was a mentor to me, hadn't died while I was away in the Army, I wouldn't be sitting here in this monkey suit today. But it's the only time ever I heard him say anything negative about being Superman.
Reeves may not have liked the part, but he understood its importance and he took his status as a children's role model seriously.
Art, I'm coming right back. Keep your mitts off my grub.
All right.
He avoided smoking in public, eventually quitting, and would make public appearances and perform in live shows as Superman.
Hey, Superman.
Well, hello there, young man. What's your name?
Kenneth Giles. Can I shoot you?
Kenneth? Why would you want to do something like that?
So the bullet bounces off, can I?
Well, if you did shoot me, and the bullet bounced off, it might accidentally hit someone else. We don't want that to happen, do we?
No.
Why don't you just, you and I, here we go, partner. Why don't you just give me that? Just hand me that for 1 minute.
That actually happened. George Reeves was the definition of a consummate professional and never publicly spoke ill of the role.
George was a noble
Southern
person. Yeah, he was a gentleman.
So wonderful.
And he always had a sign up on his dressing room, Honest George, the people's friend.
But below the surface, he was suffering. He didn't want to be in television. He didn't want to be Superman. He didn't want his targeted audiences to be children. But his contract was so restrictive, it made it nearly impossible to do anything else. In fact, the only acting work he could get outside of the show was on an episode of I Love Lucy, playing Superman.
Well, Superman, that was a wonderful thing you did.
Oh, Ricky, it was my pleasure. I'm only sorry I didn't get to meet Lucy. I've heard so much about her.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Where is Lucy, Ethel?
Oh, she'll be here in a minute. She's out on the ledge.
Out on the ledge? Of all the crazy things that you've done in the 15 years that we've been married, this is really...
Cargill, you mean to say that you've been married to her for 15 years?
Yeah, 15 years.
Then they call me Superman.
The Adventures of Superman ran for 6 seasons, and as he was getting older, Reeves began to look at directing work. He directed the last 3 episodes of the 6th season, and also had a science fiction film lined up. And he also seemed upbeat about returning to Superman for a 7th season. Then the unthinkable happened.
On the morning of June 16, 1959, a nation awoke to read a shocking headline. Superman had killed himself.
This is where the Superman curse really takes hold with George Reeves for 2 reasons. One, he was 100% typecast as Superman and he couldn't find any other acting work. And 2, the mystery surrounding his death. George Reeves' death was closed as a suicide, but there are a number of theories regarding his death. He died of a gunshot wound to the head, and his body was found laying on top of the bullet casing. The gun, a German Luger, had no prints. The bullet that killed him was found in the ceiling, 2 more were found in the floor, and there was no report of gunpowder residue on his hands, although that wasn't routinely tested for in 1959, so it's possible they didn't look. One theory is that it was his fiancée, Leonore Lemon.
Listen, what are you doing? What the?
I'm the f***ing man in this room. Do something, all right? You has been. You
give it to me.
Said
Give it.
That one doesn't hold a lot of water because it originates from a hearsay statement made from one of the guests from the night Reeves died, while multiple witnesses and the police report state that Ms. Lemon never left the group. The most popular non-suicide theory was that Reeves was a victim of a hit arranged by movie producer Eddie Mannix, who was rumored to have mob connections. Mannix and his wife Toni were married in 1951, and shortly after she met George, and according to Superman co-stars Jack Larson and Noel Neill, Eddie gave his blessing for the two to see each other. It was scandalous enough back then for the two of them to be romantically involved because she was already married to Eddie Mannix, and with her being 8 years older than George, that just stirred the pot a little bit more. But neither George, Toni, or Eddie seemed to care. Reeves ended the relationship in 1958 when he met Leonore Lemon, who was 10 years younger than him, and it devastated Toni.
Good night.
Buenas noches, Jorge.
A lot of people believe that Eddie Mannix was so angry at George for hurting Toni the way he did that he arranged a hit on Reeves. But Reeves' death provided no closure to Toni. She remained dedicated to him and reportedly even built a shrine to George in her house. Then there's the suicide theory.
I was in Europe at the time, and there were headlines from all over the world. People sent me all this stuff saying George had committed suicide. I believed it. I still believe it.
The general consensus is that George Reeves committed suicide. And I think it was a suicide as well, and my reasoning involves a number of different factors. Number one, his acting career. It's public knowledge that Reeves was not happy playing Superman or being in television. He wanted to be a movie star.
Oh, come on, George. What do you want from life?
Oh, I don't know. I'd settle for Clark Gable's career.
Mental health wasn't talked about back then like it is today, so it's very possible that he was depressed, and it's something Leonore Lemon even mentioned for the police report the night he died. Number two, he was a gun collector, and he kept his guns well oiled. A well-oiled gun is not going to hold fingerprints. Number three, he was drunk the night he died. He wasn't just drunk. His blood alcohol content was 0.27. 0.27. At that level, it's alcohol poisoning and a loss of consciousness. It's a miracle he was even able to get up the stairs. You've got years of depression combined with easy access to alcohol and firearms. That's a recipe for disaster if I've ever seen one. I don't think George Reeves was cursed. Like Kirk Alyn before him, Reeves' career stalled when he joined the military. But unlike Alyn, who was just happy to be getting acting work, Reeves took it a lot harder and he wasn't able to recover.
Mr. Reeves? charming man. Funny, handsome. Not like the ones today, all the squinting and the mumbling. A movie star face. Why wasn't he one? Where he wound up, it should have been enough, right? Enough for a life. But George... yeah.
Had he been able to pull through, he may have had a career resurgence later in life. We might have seen him on some late night talk shows or even a cameo in a Christopher Reeve film. But we'll sadly never know. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. In addition to commenting, please be sure to like and subscribe. I'm still going to do the drawing for when the channel reaches 100 subscribers. And this is for a copy of DC Special Series number 21, featuring the first Frank Miller Batman art. It is signed by Frank Miller and certified through Comic Sketch Art. And please make sure that your privacy settings allow me to see who you are when I look at my subscriber list. Thank you again for watching. And remember, hope is like your car keys. Easy to lose, but if you dig around, it's usually close by.